The Canadian Armed Forces can't catch a break. Recent story just came out in the paper that explained how Canadian Armed Forces soldiers on course in Ottawa needed to resort to a food cupboard in order to feed themselves. So stay tuned. I'm going to go into the story and explain a little bit more and learn a little bit more about why we're in such a crappy state with the Canadian Armed Forces. Thanks again for tuning in to the show. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the Hard to Kill podcast. I'm Dave Morrow. And for those that are tuning in for a second, third, fourth, fifth time, welcome back. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend a moment here listening to the dire state that is the Canadian Armed Forces. But one of the reasons why you are listening here is because news is 100% blocked on social media in Canada. I know it's Orwellian, it's dystopian, it's whatever you want to call it. It's just a thing. So if you want to see more content like this of news stories that relate to the health, fitness, and well-being of the Canadian Armed Forces, of the military, of veterans, then you're going to need to hit subscribe and hit the like button. So let's get at her. But before we get started, if you like a ball cap, a dad ball cap, as I like to call them, to show your support for the Hard to Kill podcast, you can find the link that's here in the description and support some fresh merch for the upcoming summer season. The article popped up on my feed yesterday. It's in the Ottawa Citizen. It is by David Pugliese, who's a writer and comments a lot on military events, stories, etc. And the title of the article is Soldiers Had to Rely on Food Donations Because of Lack of Military Support During Ottawa Training. Staff created a food cupboard for the cash-strapped military personnel so they wouldn't go hungry during specialized cyber training. Oh boy. Okay, let's dig into it. Some of the soldiers went months without being reimbursed by National Defense for their expenses. Surprise, surprise. I'm still waiting on my education reimbursement from the military. The recruits were not initially eligible for any housing allowance while in Ottawa. That's not right. They told them they had to move there. It was a year-long course. In addition, while the troops finished their initial cyber specialist training, some are still delayed in advancing to the next phase as they have to wait between 18 months to 2 years for security background checks. Like what? Hold on a sec. You're telling these candidates that they have to wait 2 years before they can do their job? In what world is that acceptable? That's just like an incompetent shit sandwich. And everybody's got to take a bite. So what do they do if you can't get you just bum around in pat platoon? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm not surprised that they weren't getting fed. They don't care about these guys. Well, maybe they don't care about anybody, but they definitely don't care about these guys. And it's surprising because this is kind of a big deal. This whole cybersecurity stand-up of a new capability is really needed here in Canada because we're way behind everybody else, as per usual. But you have to have people that are of a specialized skill set. So this is a mixed civilian and military unit. So carrying on just with some of the larger incompetence that happened here. In February, the newspaper reported that an internal national defense review, which concluded the department's cyber forces being hindered by a lack of staff and training, as well as security clearances that take far too long. Well, yeah, no kidding. Well, okay, great. Thanks for the report. But what did you do to fix it? Clearly nothing. The shortage of personnel is hampering the cyber forces' capacity to plan and implement a solution, risking cyber initiatives. Well, obviously, the cyber operator job in the Canadian Forces was created in January of 2017 in the aftermath of earlier direction from the government for the military and national defense to become involved in cyber defenses. Yeah, it was about time. Such individuals conduct a variety of cyber operations. They monitor Canadian Armed Forces communication networks to detect and respond to attempts to hack the system, as well as provide cyber support for military operations. Okay, side note, if you know or you are one of these members, can you drop a comment? Are you allowed to? That'd be great. I don't know anybody in this unit. It's very, very, very small, but like my stereotype meter is going like off the charts right now. Do you have to be covered in Cheeto dust in order to be able to be part of this unit? Like, do you have to be like sticky fingers, keyboards, like greasy face, sitting in your basement all day? What are the prerequisites for joining this unit? Anyways, I'm just busting balls, guys. But come on, hackers, Come on, we all know the stereotypes. So the department declined to provide further details on this position. The National Defense Public Affairs Branch stated it cannot provide such information because of security reasons. But is that the case, David Pugliese? But that statement isn't true, according to Dave Pugliese. The Canadian Forces itself has put information online about the jobs that security operators perform, as well as their qualifications. Wow, what a surprise. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in the Canadian Armed Forces. That couldn't possibly happen. This is just the way that they get out of conversations that they don't want to have. You know what? It's classified. Well, it's protected. B. We can't talk about it. But just shut up. Is basically what they're saying. But it's so ridiculous, man. And then lastly, the National Defense Public Affairs Branch did not explain why it provided false information to this newspaper. I love that last line. Well done, Dave. Well done. Exactly. Like why are you spouting off lies, turning this entire internet into a house of lies? Well, not surprised. So further to this, I was reminded of this other article that came out last month from General Wayne Eyre, and about his speech. This is something you can't make up, man. It's awesome for content, but not awesome for democracy. General Wayne Eyre's speech advocating for openness on defense issues is now secret. Excuse me. Oh, man. It's like a Monty Python skit. Or 1984. You pick. But the dude's talking about openness on defense issues and then locks it down. You got to A-tip it if you want to be able to see it. And I think they've redacted like all of it. So just more incompetence, right? Just to highlight the level of shenanigans going on in the Canadian Armed Forces. Let's just tune into Reddit to get a feel for this article. This is the Canadian subreddit, by the way, not the Canadian Forces one. But folks are talking, and I like this one from no FOCKS to give. I won't say the whole word because I don't want to get a strike on my YouTube account. I know exactly how the CAF will deal with this. Any CAF member under the rank of major who contributed to maintaining or creating the food cupboard. I love food cupboard. Corporal News Network, could you please do something on the food cupboard and make my day? I'm just throwing that out there. All right, carrying on. We'll get initial counseling for some BS reason, and there will be a memo sent out to prohibiting troops from discussing anything related to this for security reasons. Excuse me. Remember that the CAF only cares about giving the public the impression that the troops are being cared for. That final metric is not the welfare of the soldiers, but the press coverage that activities generate for the CDS minister, prime minister. This is built into the system and does not change no matter what talking points they are spouting. This sounds like somebody that's in the CAF right now, and they know what they're talking about. And this pretty much captures the entire feeling. We see it. We're not dumb. They just talk. But then when push comes to shove, like, how did they not think that maybe they could get a hay box out to these guys? Like, get them some boiled eggs. They couldn't muster that. Like, come on, man. Like, the amount of food that I threw out as a troop and as a senior NCO back in the day was just astronomical. But we always got hay boxes. He's got the service battalion. Ring them up like, hey, can you shoot him some Salisbury steaks? Sure, on it. And make that run every day. Is it really that difficult? It's a course. They literally do it all over the country every year. I'm just blown away that they couldn't figure out the logistics to get food to troops. They had to have a food cupboard. I want a picture. If anybody has a picture, I want a picture. Like, I want a picture bad. I'll put it on Twitter. I'll put it on my feed. Like that. I got to see it. What was in it? Was it mostly cookies? Was it Chef Boyardee? Where did you cook the food? Did you cook food? Did you have so many questions? I got so many questions. I mean, I'm making light of it. It sucks. Like, they didn't eat. Like, they had to go out and buy food that wasn't, intended for them to do. So they ran into financial hard. I get it. I'm making light because if you don't make light, we all go into a deep, deep pit of despair. But this is all to say that there's some serious incompetent shit going on here. And I want to just bring up a news report here on the YouTubes with Rosemary Barton on the CBC related to the growing number of Canadians anxious about the state of Canada's military, according to a poll. I'm not surprised. Like, why wouldn't the general public be concerned when they see news stories that show their troops just can't get food? They don't have equipment that works. So let's get into this one, and I'll share some of my thoughts. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's more. I think it's worse, to be honest. Reports were, I mean, from Wayner, right? Like, we got like what 3 days worth of ammo. If we get into a shooting war, that includes everything, like 5.56, 7.62, arty shells. Like 3 days. That's it. It takes a long ass time to build up your war reserves, right? That should be like a strategic reserve, not just something like, hey, by the way, JT, we don't have any more bullets. Well, how did that happen? Well, you didn't give us any money to buy any, so we don't have any. Like, what world are we living in? And then on top of that, serviceable kit. And you can comment down below if you're in and you're dealing with like kit issues, but not just kit issues, equipment issues. That's that's a safety thing, right? If you have a vehicle that is non-serviceable or is not quite at the level that you think is required for you to be safe in, i.e., like Sea Kings, Griffins, basically any piece of equipment that we have, it seems like it's all being duct taped together and held together with duct tape and a prayer. That's no way to have morale in a military, because you're relying on that kit or on that vehicle to keep you alive at a bare minimum. Like, that should be like the bare minimum standard. So when your governments and politicians don't put any funding to actually get the equipment that you require and upgrade it and make sure that it's safe, doesn't that just tell you that they don't give a shit about you, about the military? I mean, right? Like, our lives are on the line. We're not working in an office. Well, most of us, anyways, they're in like the pointy end of the stick. The point of the military is to go and seek and destroy the enemy. So therefore, if you don't have the stuff to actually get there, so you can do, like, you're going to die. It's not sitting in, Revenue Canada, like typing out TPS reports. I don't know what they do. I'm making that up. Anyways, carry on.
When I spoke with him earlier today. Former Chief of the Defense Staff, General Tom Lawson, thank you for being here this morning.
Pleasure to be with you.
These internal documents that my colleague Murray Brewster obtained say that only 58% of the military is able to respond in a crisis. Does that surprise you, General, or is that pretty much what you would have predicted?
Well, the concern is when your fleets get a little bit older, and a lot of our fleets of aircraft, ships, and trucks and tanks and troop carriers are older, it takes longer to maintain them. And the parts bins, you kind of run through the parts you bought when they were new, and you got to keep those things full. So it doesn't surprise me too much that it's gotten this low, because I know that the money has not been there, and especially when you're starting to take money out of in-year budgets, as the now trying to do, that's your spare parts and your support fund.
How does it compare to when?
So, I mean, former CDS here, Lawson. I mean, this has been endemic. This isn't just a liberal thing. It's not a concern. It's a Canadian thing. We don't put money into the military, even though we have a standing army, even though we're committed to treaties like NATO. I was just having this discussion with a friend of mine. We have the luxury here of, and I would say we won the lottery in terms of history when it comes to our geography. We have 3 oceans surrounding us, so it's hard to get here. We are a massive piece of land with all the resources, water, oil, trees, you name it. We've also got the world's largest ever superpower right next to us. We've got everything we could possibly imagine. We've got smart people. People want, but yet we can't muster a military of 60,000 with all the best kit, all the best gear, all the best training. They have to resort to food cupboards. This is not good. This is pure mismanagement and incompetence at such a high level. I don't know. I'm wondering, like, what do you think needs to get done here? It's not just one political party that fixes this. It's not just one leader that fixes this. Where does the fix come from? Is it internal within the forces? I'm curious to know what you think. Drop it in the comments, because I don't have any ideas. I'm behind a mic right now. I'm trying to figure things out just for me and how I'm moving forward with my transition out of the military. But if you're still in, I'd like to hear what you have to think about the current state of Canadian Armed Forces and what you think a potential solution might be. But if you're also a veteran, maybe you have some ideas too. Like, let them fly, man. That's the point of this platform. Drop them in the comments, and I'd love to hear them. So, folks, that's it for me today. I just wanted to highlight this juicy piece of information. And don't forget, one of the reasons why I want to do this is to help change things, to bring light to these things, not just keep it within the military communities, but to actually share it broadly amongst Canadians, whether you're on the left, on the right, whether you're, a mask wearer, non-mask wearer, whether you're whatever, it doesn't matter. We can all get behind the fact that we as Canadians want to be better off and want to look after our families. At least I think. At least that's my assumption. So with that being said, I don't think anybody would want to see anybody go hungry, especially those in the military that are charged with our defense. So thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button down below, because that tells YouTube that you actually want to tune into this content, because don't forget, Mr. JT doesn't want you seeing any content on the internet. So therefore, you have to make it happen. So I definitely appreciate the support. It goes a long way to grow this channel. And don't forget, train hard, fight easy. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.